This will be a wall of text, but there's a boulder on my chest, and I feel like if I don't let everything out somehow, I'm going to go crazy. History. I started seeing my boyfriend, B, when I was 19. He was 25 at the time. He fell for me instantly, and I eventually fell for his charm and warmth. We dated for 6.5 years, and we were planning on getting married at one point. The first 2 years of our relationship were a dream. We fell in love harder every day. Each day with B was a dream, an adventure. I'm a person that's easily bored, and he always put in an effort to keep me entertained or amused. He was lovely. He loved me more than he loved himself. I believe till date he would give me the last bite of food he has if I'd ask. He always did something special for my birthdays and Valentine's, even though I'm not particularly keen on celebrating either. He would buy me small presents as a surprise just to see me smile. He'd send me texts during the day with a warm, encouraging message. I have a high-stress job. I just can't overemphasize how amazing he was. After the second year into the relationship, he was still his lovely self, but started getting slightly insecure, although to this point, he had nothing to worry about. He kept asking why I would talk to an old guy friend, or why I added an ex-colleague on Facebook. I addressed his concerns, and he seemed okay for a few days, but then he started getting angrier more often. That being said, he was still very caring and considerate. Still as much in love with me as he was on the first day. Still wooing me, still looking after me, etc. First time I cheated. 4 years into our relationship, I met a guy, C, through a friend. C and I started off just friends, but eventually we got very close, and would talk on the phone for hours. We never flirted openly, but it was obvious to both of us that the other person is special to us. Now B found out, we had a huge fight. He forgave me, and we moved on. However, this scar never left B, and understandably, he would often bring it up, and of course his insecurity now grew. Second time I cheated. This is 5 years into our relationship. My feelings for B have waned. I love him dearly, I still do, but I'm not romantically sexually attracted to him. I try to break up with him, but then his mother falls very seriously ill. Another time I want to bring up the topic, he's going through very heavy financial troubles. I admit I was too much of a coward to bring it up, and when I did work up the courage, the time would be wrong. Around this time, I meet an old friend of mine, D, and we become physically involved. My relationship with D by this point is an escape from a life with B which I find unbearable. I feel the need to say that again I was too much of a coward to break up with him. I also felt like he needed me to take care of certain things in his life, and if I left, he would fall apart. About 7 or 8 months into my affair, my boyfriend confronts me about the second instance of cheating. I deny it initially until he admits he's read my texts. I tell him, and he snaps. The next day we talk, and I assume he wouldn't want to stay with me, and I want to say a final goodbye and apologize for what happened. Turns out he wants us to stay together. I say that I can't be with him after the clusterfuck that our relationship has become. He then threatens to ruin my life, threatens to ruin my career. We fight, and eventually, under a lot of duress and promises on his part, I agree to work it out. What ensued was 8 months of a mind frick like no other. We both held grudges, we had lost trust in each other, we were both deeply scarred by the other's actions, and still B refuses to end the relationship. The last few months, we've come from a point of being head over heels in love with each other and willing to do anything for the other, to wishing the other person was dead, and still B refuses to end the relationship. A few hours ago, he turned up outside my house at 1 o'clock in the morning. We don't live together, and created an enormous scene. He called me a hoe, liar, etc. I admit I am, and basically woke the entire neighborhood. I realized that we were going nowhere and that I would have to be brave and just cut off ties cold turkey. This is what I've done. He was and is a wonderful human, and he loved me like I've never seen another person love someone. I screwed us up. I didn't have the balls to stand up and break up with him and take a stand when it mattered. Then I went and cheated on a guy that only ever wanted to make me smile. Then we drove each other to a point where everything beautiful about a relationship was just washed away. Everything kind, considerate, thoughtful he did for me is buried under a lot of anger and hurt. But the saddest part is, I did this to us. We were beautiful together. We were each other's crutch, best friend, entertainment, lover, and we truly completed each other. I wish that either I had broken up when I felt I couldn't reciprocate his feelings, or I should have stuck my head down and worked hard at the relationship. Now, I'm just sitting on my bed crying nonstop because I can't stop thinking about that time he went and bought me a purple dolphin plush toy because I love dolphins and the color purple. I can't stop thinking about the time he drove 20 kilometers at 2 a.m. at night just to drop off cake to kill my cake craving. I can't stop thinking about the care packages he would make for me and surprise me with whenever I felt unwell or under stress from work. I can't forget how he dropped off cat food to my house at 3 a.m. because I realized I was out. I can't forget how he dropped his work just to go pick up my little sister when she was stranded somewhere and I couldn't make it. I can't forget that he would so often cook something wonderful, especially for me. I can't forget that his hugs were a world of their own. The most comfortable and safe feeling I've ever known. Please learn from my mistake. Comments. Well, that's a mess, all right. I think you should just be on your own for a while. You aren't in your right mind. You've been through a lot and made a lot of mistakes. Time to reboot. If you two really love each other, you need to talk. You both obviously know the history of your situation. Is it worth saving? It's going to take two very mature and reasonable people to wade through it and work it out. You've cheated twice. He has to live with that. And there's more after that. Story 2. Let me say this first. I know what I did was terrible. I fully admit it, and I won't try to justify my cheating at all. Last night, I was out with some friends, and the combination of alcohol and a handsome stranger flirting with me led to a terrible decision. I ended up sleeping with the guy, but as soon as I realized what I did, I left his place pretty much in tears at 4 a.m. and went back home. Thankfully, my boyfriend was already asleep. Since I got home, I've been able to hide my guilt so far, but I know I can't do it forever. The problem is, and I know it makes me incredibly selfish, breaking up with my boyfriend isn't an option. I love him beyond belief and want to spend the rest of my life with him. I know what I did was wrong, but I know it was a one-time mistake and it really won't ever happen again. I get that this is standard cheater talk, but I know for certain it really won't happen again. The other guy is totally out of the picture. I can't remember his name even, and it was just sex, not a trace of feelings involved. But I also know that it's not fair to my boyfriend to let him continue being with me under the assumption that I've always been faithful to him. Believe me, I know telling him is the right thing to do, and I really do want to tell him, but I can't risk losing him. I wouldn't survive without my boyfriend. I hate to say the next part, especially since everything I've already said makes me a piece of shit, but I'm almost totally dependent on my boyfriend. I live with him and our income gap is just comical. I know it makes me a selfish monster, but I literally would be out on the street if he broke up with me. What do? I know the morally right thing to do is to tell him, and honestly I deserve to be kicked to the curb. But I'm not exactly a saint, so I can't do that. I don't want to lose my boyfriend, and I know he would most likely leave me if I told him. At the same time, I don't feel it's totally necessary to tell him, especially since I know the cheating was definitely a one-off. I've been racked with guilt all day. I know I'm going to get a lot of responses further telling me I'm a piece of shit, and I know it's rightfully deserved. But if you could just please spare judgment for just a moment, it would mean the world to me. I've never felt so ashamed and guilty before. Comments. Before tonight, if anyone would have asked you if you would cheat on your perfect boyfriend, whom you love so much and intend to marry, what would your response have been? Probably would have been a resounding, no, of course not. The only thing that's left to do is come clean immediately. Trying to sweep this under the rug or waiting a few months or years to tell him will only compound the fallout. Your boyfriend needs to know about it so he's aware of possible STDs. Have you considered that? You should schedule an appointment to get checked. You need to address it now and work towards not cheating in the future. You can't determine the outcome of your relationship. He may or may not forgive you. You've already acted very selfishly. Don't continue that trend and keep this away from him. Oh no, poor you. And sarcasm. Sweet Jesus. You are a cheater, and on top of that, selfish and a coward too. Your boyfriend deserves the truth and to have the chance to decide if he wants to give you another chance, or if he wants to be with someone who won't screw around on him at all, period. There are people out there who aren't untrustworthy cheaters, you know. It may have been a one-time thing, but some of us out there have a no-time thing. As in, we can control ourselves around good-looking people even if they are handsome and flirting with us, and we're a bit drunk. Because we respect our SOs, you see. If you love him as much as you say you do, you know deep down that you have to be honest with him about this and deal with the fallout. Or you can go ahead and try to cover it all up and hope it all magically goes away, and prove that you really are purely thinking of yourself.